back to VL Speaks with you. This is Virna Lisa. I am she, and this is episode 3. So, the last 2 episodes, I really delved into the aspect of kindness and how you exercise that with yourself, on yourself. And then also, the next episode focused on how we use kindness and non harming and non violence in our relationship with nature. One of the comments that I made was in regards to how children and nature have something in common. One of the things that they have in common is that they are honest and true. So, this week's episode, episode 3, is going to be focused on truthfulness and honesty, which is a big topic. And I'm going to dive right in to the deep end with you. So, honesty. How honest are you with yourself? Because, of course, everything starts with the individual person first, right? And so we have to take responsibility for everything that we do, especially as an adult, especially when you know better. And I do believe that children, when they're not too tampered with and they're really given good instruction and love and support, that we all know on some level of whether or not we're doing something wrong and when we're being honest or not. And as you grow up to become an adult, some of that may be skewed based on whatever habits you've developed as time has carried on. So, how honest are you with yourself about your behaviors and your thoughts and your deeds? And it all starts with a thought, right? Thought, word, and deed. How honest are you with yourself if you really stop and think about it? How do you interact with other people? And so the opposite of truthfulness, right, is lying. And I love this quote by Rolf Sovik, and he says, truthfulness is a challenge to the heart. And I would believe that's true for the intellect and the mind as well, but definitely for the heart. So when you think of why you would lie, right, there's a few top reasons that we can go to. One is laziness. You just don't feel like dealing with the repercussions of something, and that you feel that if you tell the truth, you're going to have to get into all of this explanation, and you just don't want to do that. You don't want to be bothered with all of that, and you don't really care about how it affects another person. That's one reason. Another is fear. Yeah. Fear of being seen a particular way, of not being accepted, of losing something that you have, or not getting something that you want. These are all contributing factors. And also for some people, lying just starts to become a habit. It's something that they start to do over time, and they find that concealing things and trying to control the machinations of things around them is more important than being honest. And let's face it, if you're not honest, people are going to catch on to it at some point. Some others quicker than others, because let's see, where do you fall in that camp? Are you the type of person that's brutally honest, where you just spit out the truth and it doesn't matter who it hurts or where it flies and what it hits? You may say, well, at certain points you may fall in different shades of gray when talking about this topic, but it is important because it affects your mind. And as I've discussed in previous episodes, your mind and this body that you are walking around in, living in, are the 2 most important tools that you have. Your mind and your body. The body that works without you telling it to. So that is why it is crucial to know where you fall in the spectrum. Is this something that you need to address? Mark Twain said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Which is very true. Because the more lies you tell, especially if you're telling different lies to different people, this creates a maze of confusion in your own head. And you don't want to kill your mind, you want to become friends with your mind. So being honest is definitely sometimes not the easiest thing to do. It may be the more courageous thing to do. But for some folks, it can be scary, right? Some people just don't want to rock the boat. So they'll say, yes, of course. You'll say, yes, of course, I'll do that. Sure, I would love to do that, you would say. And really, you're thinking, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable with it. You may be thinking these things to yourself, but because you don't want to rock the boat, you say yes to something that you're not okay with, which means that you are denying yourself. So that's another aspect of being not honest with yourself or not truthful is denial. Denial of what you believe in order to not create problems. Seemingly not create problems. You're creating a problem for yourself. But how does that affect you? Well, eventually it does affect the mind, as I've just mentioned. It affects your physical health. It can affect your emotional health. And that once you start creating these constructs, these house of lies, it can become a very harrowing experience to look at that, to reflect and look at that and go, wait a minute, what am I doing? What have I done? So where do we go from there? Where do you go from there? If you're at that point, you may be one of those really honest people, and you may also be one of the few, the lucky few, that has the gift of tact and discernment and discretion and love when they're delivering the truth. That is an art form, and that is a skill, and that one is one that I am working on. Because I can say, I got issues. Lying is not one of them. But making sure that the truth is shrouded with love when delivered is a definite skill. And I will definitely be addressing this in the next episode because that it deserves its own episode because it is it's skillfulness in action. I'll tell you that much. So what can we do? Because we know that the truth will eventually out. It always outs itself, and lies do come home to roost. And so you want to try to avoid that, don't you? So what can you do to reflect upon this and make it work for you in a way that is helpful? And that is the first step, actually, reflection. So now that you've incorporated some of those healthy tips in episode 1 and 2, when you're writing, take the time to reflect and be honest with yourself without too much judgment or shame, because shame eventually will kill the conscience too, along with lying. Too much of it. Take the time to say, okay, am I a truthful person for the most part? And if I am not, when you find yourself, ask yourself, when you find yourself not being truthful, why are you not being truthful? Is it because of fear? Is it because of, or just laziness? What are those feelings that come up for you when you address that? And then how are you going to address it? Well, one way is to address your strengths, but also probably getting some help. There are plenty of books out there, and also finding someone that can be a reflection back to you. It could be a really good friend. It could be one of your brutally honest friends. And you can say, please deliver the truth to me with some kindness and love. But I would like your honest opinion on this. And also, you may need to find a therapist or a counselor or one of your mentors that you know have your best interest at heart. Speak to them on this topic. It's worth delving into. Yes, you can be kind, but if you're not being kind to yourself and honest with yourself, then there's something off there. Especially if you're sacrificing yourself for something that you know is not healthy for anyone involved. And I see this happening. It happens a lot with peer pressure, right? Saying no to something when it goes against the grain of what everybody else is doing, but you know it's what's best for you, stick with that. And it could happen in a workplace, it could happen in school, it could happen anywhere. But when you're able to stand in that kind of truth and own it, it takes courage. It definitely does. It's not just about bravado, it takes courage. And the root of that word is cœur, heart. That is the root of that. So I think that's why that quote by Rolf Sovik is so lovely. Truthfulness is a challenge to the heart. And you can use your intellect and some wisdom to help you navigate these waters to coming to find your own truth and then practicing that in your daily life. We certainly need more of it because if you turn on the radio or the television, all you see is a litany of malarkey, right? That's a good way of putting it. It's a clean way of putting it. There's a lot of gaslighting and lying going on. If you're lying to yourself, you stop being able to tell when other people are lying to you also. And the thing of it is that once you've lost other people's trust, you can't have a lot of peace without trust. Please keep in mind that this is all ancient wisdom that I'm bringing to you here with a modern twist. These are things that experientially I know to be true. There is some empirical wisdom here due to experience and in the practice of these things. So in the next episode, because I could belabor this for hours, but in the next episode, I will definitely be delving into delivering truth with some discretion and wisdom, and why that's just as important as being honest with yourself and being kind to yourself in the process. If you are dealing with people in your immediate circle, it may be at work, school, or within your family, you're dealing with people that you know are dishonest. If you can, keep your distance, keep your wits about you, stay true to yourself. And if you can, and if you are in a position to deliver that truth and honesty, then may you do it with kindness and grease it with some love. It can be challenging. This is true. But you can do it. You're an honest person to begin with, right? You're born with that truth. You can do it. Remember, everyone here, we are divine, shrouded in these bodies, having a human experience. And the work is never done. As long as you're alive, there's always room for improvement. And this will lead to having a healthier and happier life. And there's no amount of money that you can put on that. So, that's it for today's episode, episode 3 at VL Speaks with You. Look forward to seeing you again. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave that down in the comment section. Be respectful of yourself and of others. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a lovely weekend. Ciao.